What's happening, guys? So today we're going to talk about the differences of training for strength versus training for size. We see guys who bodybuild who are absolutely massive, but they might not be able to do as much in compound movements as strongmen. Now, the short answer to that comes in what muscles are you actually training? What are you actually training? Where bodybuilders, if you put them against us on a bench press, on a shoulder press, a seated shoulder press, they probably win 9 times out of 10. If you took us and you took the bench away and now we're standing or we're doing a deadlift, we're doing a squat, you're probably not going to be near as successful. Now, training for size is mostly training for bodybuilding and aesthetics, which means that you want your midsection to be as tight and as small as possible. The challenge with that becomes a smaller, tighter midsection means that you have less total support. If you just think of, say, the mechanics of a squat, if you have a really big gut and you squat at a certain stage, your stomach is going to be on your thighs, and now you have that support on top of the strength to be able to squat. Now, if you don't have that big gut to be able to have that interaction, you still have more capacity and more material to be able to push and create your intra-abdominal pressure. So the scientific literature says that the #1 variable in strength and what really determines strength is cross-sectional area of a muscle. And that's true, but when it comes to heavy compound lifts, we have to look at cross-sectional area of every muscle involved in the movement. So we're looking at, say, in a deadlift, we're not just looking at your glutes and your hamstrings and your spinal erectors, but we're also looking at your core muscles, everything between your rib cage and your pelvis. If those muscles have thicker muscle bellies, it's not what bodybuilders are looking for, but it's what's required to lift heavy weights. So what are the training implications for this? Now, if you are a bodybuilder and your goal is to have the smallest waist possible, then things like really high volume, really low intensity cardio is going to help burn what's called visceral fat, or fat around your organs, that is going to make your waist smaller. This is one of the primary things that helps bodybuilders have a small waist. It's actually not as much in the thickness of the muscle as you would expect. Say things like walking on a treadmill, things like going for a walk here, they'll do it hours and hours on end, and that is going to decrease that visceral fat. Now, it's interesting, visceral fat is the most health dangerous fat that there is. Aesthetic fat, like in around your chin, your neck, your chest, and the fat that you can feel in your stomach actually isn't all that correlated to negative health outcomes, but the fat underneath around the organs is the most dangerous. So they shred all that fat away. They get nice and tight, nice and small, but it becomes really difficult to brace. So next time you see a bodybuilder, they're lifting heavy, they're working hard, I want you to think, what are they lifting heavy in? Are they actually loaded at all? And this can be done multiple different ways. Of course, we all know Ronnie Coleman did a lot of his heavy training, and he did his heavy deadlifts and he did his heavy squats, but there would have been a lot of lower intensity, high volume cardio to bring that waist in. And he chose to train in a way that made him resilient for that. Which gets to my final point, which is Wolff's Law. Wolff's Law is that the body will adapt to the stresses placed in it so long as you allow for adequate time for rest and recovery. Meaning that a lot of bodybuilders forever can get away with never doing squats and deadlifts. They can rather do leg press, they could do good mornings, things that don't put load directly down through the shoulders. There's also the elements of bodybuilders are so big and their cross-sectional area of the muscle is so thick that if you take these people and you take them to go to heavy strength training, they might actually not be capable of that. And from an injury risk perspective, meaning that they might get injured just in trying to do it. So it might not be worth it for a lot of them if that's not a style of training that they're used to. As you go forward, if you're choosing to train for size, a great recipe for that can be heavy, low volume training. It can also be lighter, high volume training, but you can never go from lighter, high volume training directly into high intensity, low volume, low rep training. because your tendons aren't ready, your neuromuscular system isn't ready, and you're going to run yourself into the ground and you're going to get hurt. So hopefully that helps you guys understand the difference between training to be big and training to be strong. Of course, there's a lot of crossover between that, but they're not directly one and the same thing. Pop in the comments, what are you training for? Are you training to be big or are you training to be strong? Leave a moose drop me if you can. Otherwise, thanks a lot for watching and we'll catch you next time.